Welcome to a special edition of Municipal Affairs. Earlier this week, during our live Alberta Municipal Votes 2025 YouTube exclusive episode, we had the privilege of sitting down with a number of acclaimed municipal leaders from across Alberta. Now, these conversations offered valuable insights into local governance, community priorities, and vision shaping Alberta's towns, cities, and rural communities. And for today's episode, we brought you all those interviews together so you can enjoy them in one place. So without further ado, here are our conversations from election night with some of Alberta's acclaimed mayors and councillors. Mayor-elect Messner, thank you so much for sitting down with me and chatting about the next 4 years as one of the acclaimed mayors across the province of Alberta. First off, congratulations. How are you feeling about entering into the Messner era of Grimshaw?
That's funny that you say it like that. When I hear it, I kind of go, "Really? Okay." But I'm feeling actually pretty good about it. I think that the council that's been acclaimed this term, or we're going to have a good council with a lot of good ideas and perspectives. And I look forward actually to working with this council the next 4 years for sure.
So, what is the big priorities for this next term of office? Because when I speak to municipal leaders across Alberta, I'm getting a range of different issues. For yourself as mayor and the town of Grimshaw, what will be the priority number one for you?
I think that there are two things that are really high priorities, and I'm sure there'll be more once the council meets. But right now, policing is something that's on the radar. Pardon the pun there, I guess. But policing and what we're going to do in Grimshaw and with a police service. I attended the Alberta Next panel representing the town of Grimshaw, asking a question at the Grand Prairie Next panel. And I'm not sure that we got the answer that we were looking for, but I do know that we have to have some conversations with the government about what options are available for Grimshaw and what the APP, their Alberta Provincial Police Service, is going to look like and how that would support us from a sheriff's perspective, and the RCMP. And so the RCMP have been very cooperative in our community, very responsive. We really, really do appreciate our RCMP. So, yeah, it's kind of going to be an interesting question here in the next 2 years about what we need to do. The other priority is healthcare and making sure that our health center is fully supported with the changes in the 4 pillars of the health care system. It's kind of hard to know how that affects our health center and what the needs are of our health center practitioners in Grimshaw and for services and making sure that our doctors are supported. So I think those are 2 major priorities for Grimshaw right now. And I'm sure economic development will be another one.
So, September 23rd came and went, and the nomination period official list of candidates came out, and you were acclaimed. Now,
Yeah.
you and I will probably both come to the realization that the work doesn't stop because the acclamations have happened. Now, you are mayor
Right.
elect, and you have had the last 29 days, if I'm doing my math here correctly, to start these conversations with the premier, with the minister of justice, with the 4 ministers of health. Have you done that, or are you waiting for tomorrow morning, Tuesday, October 21st, to start having those conversations as you will officially become the quote unquote mayor elect for the town of Grimshaw?
Yeah. No, definitely the work has changed here in the last month with Mayor Wald. I've still been working with her cooperatively. She's been good in communicating with me the things that are going to be happening after our organizational meeting, which is on November 3rd. So it's kind of an interesting position. We still need to make decisions, but we don't want to make decisions too early. Because you want to make sure you're representing the current council's voice. And I think it's important to also update the new council, their incoming council, as to what's been happening. I'm sure they've been keeping a pulse on things. They probably have questions. And I think it's really important to include your incoming council on the ideas and maybe some of the paths that Grimshaw is considering going from a council perspective. But I would say there's some things, yes, we need to make decisions on and working with administration. We kind of determine what they are. But some of them are like, no, we need to wait till our organizational meeting on November 3rd. Also, there is some training requirements that's required now under the MGA before you can have your first council meeting. So that's not a bad thing. I think this is my third term being on council, and just thinking about my last two terms, it was like, get in, ready to run, find your feet fast. If you trip, get up fast. And I feel like maybe with this orientation that's been put in place, maybe it'll help us get better set in terms of what our priorities are.
So, what do you bring to the role as mayor? Because for the last two terms, you've been deputy mayor and councillor, and now this is a whole new experience for you. And you're going to be leading this council. You're going to be the face of Grimshaw, and that means the good, the bad things that happen that will be on you and your council. So, what do you
Yeah.
bring to this role as mayor to ensure that the best of for Grimshaw will always take priority, no matter what?
Yeah. I don't know. I feel like I always try to make sure people feel included. I mean, I know that that's a priority for me, and there might be some times where people haven't, but I really pride myself on making sure everyone's involved in a decision. If something comes to my desk as the mayor, is this an administration decision or our council decision? And what does council need to know, right? So I guess what I bring to the table is just some clarity about what comes to the council table for decisions. That even though I'm the spokesperson for the community, it's still a council decision, and I still want that camaraderie amongst council when we are making decisions. I know in the past we've made decisions, and even though I haven't agreed with them or I voted for them and thought about it afterwards, going, maybe I should have never done that. Maybe I should have never voted that way. It was a learning for me and learning for us as council too. So I think what I bring to the table is just some fairness, transparency, open communication, and hey, if I made a mistake as mayor, I'm going to own up to it. If I need to tell my perspective to our community about a direction we've gone that they don't agree with, I want to hear why. And yeah, I don't know. I just love our community so much. And I know that everyone on council loves our community so much. We just want to see what's best for Grimshaw. So that's the other thing, is like, what's best for Grimshaw? What can we handle? And, what decision do we need to make as a council to make sure we're moving forward?
My final question before I let you go, Mayor-elect, is this new council will be made up of former councillors that you served with, but also new faces around that table. How important is
Mhm.
it to have those new faces around that council table? Because they will bring a different perspective that this last term didn't have. So are you looking forward to hearing the concerns, the challenges, the wants that these new council members will bring to the table after November 3rd?
Yes, absolutely. Everyone's put their name in the hat because they're passionate about their community, and they see that there is, I don't know, there's a vested interest for them to make decisions at the council table. So I definitely want to hear everyone's perspective. We do have a lot of returning councillors or people with council experience from previous terms. And we have one new counselor, which I'm really excited to have. These perspectives are very important, no matter if you have experience or not. And, since people have served, some things have changed. And so that's going to be a big part, is that, maybe what as a council you were used to 2 terms ago or 3 terms ago when you served, that there are changes now. So it's getting people up to speed about what's changed in terms of the MGA and our requirements, and and making sure everyone's voices are heard.
So I know I said that was my final question, but I do have one last one. I should have planned this one a little bit better, but what's your hope for the next 4 years? What do you hope that Grimshaw will look like at the end of 4 years? So if I came and talked to you in 2020, if I'm doing my basic math here right, 2029, what will
Yeah.
Grimshaw be like?
Um, I don't know. I would like to see that there are, some new houses being built in Grimshaw. I'm not seeing that the town's going to expand, into hundreds and hundreds of houses, but just some interest to build. I know that there's a lot of transition in the community. New people are coming to our community all the time. I'm hearing that from people that they're coming to the multiplex and people are asking where they're from, and they're like, we just moved here from Edmonton. And I think that's wonderful. So what I hope for in the next 4 years, is that there is a confirmed plan for policing that works in our community, that our health center and our doctors are fully staffed and fully supported at our health center. Grimshaw has a good reputation of providing excellent emergency care services, long-term care. And there are a lot of health workers that work there that love working in our health center. It's a good sense of community for our citizens, and they feel like they're being supported. So in 4 years, yeah, and also our 100th birthday is in 2030, and I know the term's over in 2029, but I get excited about planning how we celebrate 100 years of this community. And I kind of wonder in the next 3 years if we'll have some things that will be a staple in our community that wasn't here before, so that when people come back to it, they can say, wow, so much has happened since I lived here so many years ago, or I'm so glad that this happened because we're celebrating our 100th birthday. There's a lot of pride here in our community. I've learned that. I'm not from Grimshaw originally. I'm married into a Peace Country family, and I have learned and appreciated and love this community just as much. So there's lots of go-getters out there, good organizers, people who just want to see this community do its best. And I'm so proud that I can be a part of that.
Well, Mayor-elect, I want to thank you so much from the bottom of my heart for spending a little bit of time with us, and best of luck as we enter into this next 4 years in this new council. We'll be watching with bated breath down here in Calgary what unfolds in Grimshaw. And like I said, when I'm up there next, let's grab a coffee while I'm there.
I would love to. I'm so glad that I was able to get in on your list of acclaimed mayors. When I was tagged in this post, I'm like, yeah, this would be a great opportunity. And I've heard good things about your radio show or your show. So I'm like, I think I'd like to be a part of this. So.
Councillor-elect Galiski, thank you so much for sitting down with me and talking about your acclamation, and also talking about the path forward for the town of Penhold, Alberta. Before we get into the issues, let's just say congratulations on being acclaimed. How does it feel to start a 4-year term as you were just elected through a by-election in this term?
Well, it feels really good to know that the town has a significant amount of confidence in the direction we're going in terms of our business plan and in terms of the atmosphere we've been cultivating in the community. Acclamation really speaks a lot to the trust people are placing in the council to execute. And going from having 4 or 5 opponents in my by-election to being acclaimed really goes to show that people don't have as many concerns, which is just a testament to how much of a good team atmosphere we've cultivated on council, I think.
So while the council has been acclaimed, there is one position in the town of Penhold that is up for election, and that is the mayor. Now, by the time we're recording this, we do not know because the polls have not officially closed and the results are not known. How do you see your path forward depending on whoever wins? Is it going to be steady as she goes, or are you looking forward, because there's going to be at least one new voice around that table because one counselor did not reoffer and a new counselor is put into place? How do you see your role as that returning counselor to ensure that the work that was started in this term doesn't end on October 21st, the start of the next term?
Well, the one thing I found most interesting talking about other candidates in council elections so far around the area is the big priority needs to be maintaining that team culture and that gel that you can cultivate while you're working as a council. For Penhold, if whatever happens with the mayor results, we're going to have a chair that has a pretty strong council in terms of understanding what direction we've already set on course. For example, keeping our mill rate increases to as low as possible, making sure our services are provided at the best efficiency as possible, and completing the public works and fire hall building. So as long as we're able to maintain that council culture and make sure that we're all working together effectively and keep that collegial atmosphere, I think we're going to still remain very well equipped for the next 4 years. So my priority, keep a good thing going, keep working with people, and keep advancing the town of Penhold's interests, because that's what we're here to do. That's our job.
So, what are the interests? Because while you are acclaimed, I can imagine you're not just sitting on your hands over the last 30 days and not talking to residents and not talking about what their aspirations and what their dreams for the town of Penhold is. So, what have you heard from residents that gives you sort of a guiding light over the next 4 years to ensure that the work is reflected of what the community wants and not what you, the councillor elect, wants?
Well, and that's the thing with being acclaimed too. You have to very much stay in plug with the community and continue to work with them. And throughout conversations with them, the priority I've really been had identified to me was that we need to continue cultivating amenities in town. We've done a very good job in the last 4 years of repeatedly adding on to the activities and events you can go to here in town and where you can shop. So that'll be very important, continuing to build that up, make sure when this arrives, then development will continue to arrive as it attracts more residents. So the big thing is we have a very sustainable path of growth right now. Residents are excited to see where it's going. Our dependence on residential mill rates has decreased over this term exponentially to depend more on commercial activity. So I think residents are quite excited to see if we can keep that commercial activity going. But like any other municipality, the big challenge and priority too is going to be making sure we have sufficient infrastructure. We have a brand new brilliant school just on the northeast side of town, and that's going to have its transportation requirements as well. So we'll have to work with our partners in the province and Red Deer County to make sure that the needs of penholders are getting met in terms of getting around, having access to services, and enjoying their quality of life here. So that'll be the big challenge for the next 4 years, I would say, although it is quite a fun challenge.
It sounds like a fun challenge, but one of the other biggest challenges that municipalities are going to face over the next 4 years, and this is not just Penhold, this is across the province. So I'm going to pick on you a little bit because you're the guest and you're right in front of me when I ask this question. There's a financial challenge that is faced with municipalities right now. And the economic wins that we have in this country, people are struggling day to day. One of the biggest things that you will be looking at when you get back into this the next term of office is going to be that ever so lovely budget. And that means that you're going to have to make some hard decisions. Now, you're up for it because you've put your hand up and you say, I want to make those tough decisions. How tough do you think this budget is going to be with the realities that we face both here provincially, nationally, and even globally, that the municipality has no role in dictating the path forward for them, but you have a dictating of the mill rate and the property taxes?
Yes. So, and that's a wonderful question too. So one of the things that makes me really most excited about the next 4 years is we've set up a sustainable path to make sure our financial obligations for paying off the multiplex and paying for the new public works and fire hall building are on a steady course. So for the next 4 years, it's not going to be the best term in terms of extravagant spending, but we have a very clear fiscal path to maintaining a relatively modest mill rate increase as necessary per budgetary year. So practice we've started recently in the last 2 budgetary years that I quite appreciate is every department sends us a business case as to what is the requirements they believe on an operating or capital basis for the next year. And we're able to parse through that from there. Last year we were able to post a $23,000 surplus in light of such huge capital expenditures and loans. So for the next 4 years, I hope the group is equipped to make these decisions because it won't necessarily be tough, but it'll be very tough and tempting to do other things at the same time. But we're going to have to keep focused on what the priority is, which is making sure Penhold's books remain strong for the next 4 years. Because at the end of the next term, a massive financial obligation for the town is lifted, and then we have the capacity to begin renewing again in terms of investments.
So what's going to be priority number one for yourself the moment you're sworn in? Because I know it's not going to be literally tomorrow because the official results are going to have to be. There's going to be some training. But what is going to be priority number one for Councillor-elect Galiski, sorry, to ensure that the work that was started in your first term doesn't end, but you continue to build off of it? What is that priority number one for yourself?
Well, the priorities remain identified, and we, by virtue of so many of the council being returned, we continue to share them. So a big.
But you must have your own priority, though, right? Because at the end of the day, while you are a unified collective, as I'm going to quote Star Trek here, because I do that on a regular occurrence, but you're a collective voice as the town of Penhold, but you're individualized as the individual boards. So you're an individual councillor. So what is the priority that you want to see accomplished?
Well, you know what? The priority I'd really like to see is I'm very proud of the fact that when you subtract the education tax, Penhold only had a 1.5% mill rate increase. When you average it out to the rest of the region, this actually put us under the provincial average for the first time in many, many years, which I'm very proud of. So for me, it's keeping the expenditures controlled to the point where, with inflationary pressures, if we can maintain good services, we're going to see our ratio continue to decrease relative to the rest of the region. And with that becomes a business advantage. And I can already see that with record developments appearing in the last 2 years in town compared to the last 10 years. With that, that's going to continue to grow the town, cultivate a recipe for success. So in terms of legislating, I would actually be probably the voice of caution to make sure we're not going overboard in terms of $40,000-$50,000 expenditures here and there. Of course, in any council, you'll vote for them. But I would like to make sure that we're staying on that path. Because when you look at the rest of the region, 8, 9, 10% increases on property taxes because the budget wasn't planned well over the previous 4 years, that's unacceptable to residents. And as a very strong fiscal conservative, to me, that would be my foremost priority.
Are you optimistic that it can be accomplished?
Absolutely. I will give absolute credit to our CAO. We are blessed with one of the best chief administrative officers in the province. What I find quite fascinating about Penhold is the continuity. So our newest councillor was a previous councillor, and she told me in her previous term, they were discussing this public works and fire hall building. And I talked to a councillor who was on 15 years ago. They were discussing the multiplex back then. They plan in advance for these things, and we plan in advance for what financial obligations the town has. So for me, that's very exciting. It's seeing many decades of work continue to go, and we're going to have pretty good results, I think, in the next 4 years. It's going to be a very exciting time to be on council, even if you're not voting on big budget items.
So what does the future look like for the town of Penhold? If I was to sit down with you on election day in 2029, what is going to be the big thing that you are going to look back and say, this is what we got accomplished? Is it just that fiscal record that we talked about? Or is there something that you're looking at and saying, okay, if we're going to continue on this path of growth, which Penhold is growing, you're talking about all the big things, the big ticket items that are coming or have come over the last term. What does the Penhold look like in 4 years' time that gives you hope that Penhold will be not just the little town, but the big, almost on the verge of becoming a potential city soon?
Well, the proudest thing for me is going to be when that Public Works and Fire Hall building is done, because I can't understate enough how important it is for planning ahead. Many levels of government end up allocating their budget and planning, not necessarily with the greatest of foresight. This building will accommodate a population of 10,000 people. So right there, you've equipped your operations department, you've equipped your fire department to sustain a massive growing town. Next will be development. 4 years from now, my barometer success will be, do people see it as a reliable opportunity to invest and build homes in Penhold? And not just single family homes, but the kind of homes, basement suites, condos, seniors residencies. These kind of things are going to be remarkably important to build a diverse population basis. We're blessed by being very young, but that also means opportunities exist for alternative kinds of housing. And if we could figure out that recipe, I truly believe this, then we're going to see an exponential amount of people, business, and opportunities come in from the surrounding area because we've created that stable, efficient environment. So that's my barometer for success. And I really hope by the end of this 4-year term, because these are all plans we're working on, it's going to work great.
Well, I will be watching with breath held because what's good for one municipality is good for the province of Alberta. So, Councillor-elect, I want to thank you so much for sitting down with me. Always a pleasure. And look forward to connecting while I'm up in Penhold or when you're down here in Calgary for Alberta municipalities later on in November. So thanks so much.
I'll get you on my tie. Talk soon.
Thank you so much for tuning in for another episode of Municipal Affairs. Now, we hope you've enjoyed today's conversation and gained some valuable insights into the world of municipal politics here in the province of Alberta. Now, before we go, we want to ask you if you can, if you're listening to this on your favorite podcast platform, hit that subscribe button. If you're watching this on YouTube, hit that follow button and subscribe now. It helps us grow the show and to continue to bring you more conversations like we had today. Now, your support means the world to us. So if you can, also share this episode with your friends, your family, and yes, even your community, and help keep the conversation going. Until next time, stay informed, stay engaged, and we'll be back with a brand new episode of Municipal Affairs shortly.